Billions of years ago, water was hiding beneath the sand of Mars. And the traces it left behind may be the closest thing we have ever found to proof that we are not alone in this universe. In the past 12 months, 3 separate scientific discoveries have converged on a single extraordinary conclusion about the red planet. Mars did not simply go wet and then go dry. It went underground. Subsurface water continued flowing through hidden channels, seeping through fractures and creeping upward through ancient dunes long after the lakes and rivers on the surface had vanished. And in doing so, it created environments where microbial life could have survived, sheltered from radiation and cold, fed by chemical energy, and preserved by the very minerals the water left behind. Scientists are now telling us that the subsurface of Mars is where the real story is. And what they are finding there is changing the entire question of life on Mars, from if it ever existed to where to look first. The most dramatic single discovery in this story came on September 10th, 2025, when NASA announced that its Perseverance rover had found something that the agency's own acting administrator called the closest we have ever come to discovering life on Mars. The rock in question is an arrowhead-shaped formation measuring roughly 3 feet by 2 feet, discovered in July 2024 in an ancient dry riverbed within the Bright Angel region of Jezero Crater. Scientists named it Chiava Falls, after a waterfall in the Grand Canyon. The rock core drilled from it was named Sapphire Canyon. After more than a year of analysis, peer review, and rigorous scientific scrutiny by outside researchers, the journal Nature published the findings on September 10th, 2025. The conclusion was both thrilling and carefully worded. Sapphire Canyon contains potential biosignatures. A biosignature is a physical, chemical, or geological indicator that may point to past or present life. The word potential is doing important scientific work in that sentence, and it is important to understand what it means and what it does not mean. It does not mean NASA found life. It does not mean microbes were confirmed. What it means is that after a year of trying to explain what they found, using every non-biological process available to them, the scientists could not find a satisfying abiotic explanation that fit all the evidence. The non-biological explanations turned out to be less likely than the biological ones. That is not proof. But in science, it is the beginning of something extraordinary. What the instruments found in Chiava Falls was a combination of features that, on Earth, are almost exclusively associated with living processes. The rock's surface showed 2 distinctive patterns: small black spots that scientists called poppy seeds, and larger irregular blotches they called leopard spots. These are patterns that form on Earth when microbes use organic material, sulfur and phosphorus in surrounding rock as an energy source, and excrete minerals as a byproduct of their metabolism. The minerals concentrated in and around those spots in Chiava Falls included vivianite, which is an iron phosphate, and greigite, which is an iron sulfide. On Earth, both of those mineral assemblages are commonly produced by microbial redox activity, the chemical energy harvesting process that allows microbes to survive in environments without sunlight by using chemical reactions between minerals and organic molecules instead. Joel Hurwitz of Stony Brook University, the lead author of the Nature paper, described the combination of organic carbon, sulfur, and phosphorus found in the Bright Angel Formation as exactly the kind of chemistry that could have been a rich source of energy for microbial metabolisms. Katie Stack-Morgan, Perseverance's project scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, was careful to frame the significance of the finding precisely. She said that astrobiological claims, particularly those related to the potential discovery of past extraterrestrial life, require extraordinary evidence. She said that while abiotic explanations for what they observed at Bright Angel are less likely given the paper's findings, they cannot be ruled out. Those qualifications are not reluctance or timidity. They are the correct scientific posture when standing at the edge of one of the most consequential questions in the history of human civilization. The scientific community uses a framework called the CoLD scale, which stands for Confidence of Life Detection, to assess discoveries like this one. The scale runs from 1 to 7, from an interesting but unconfirmed signal all the way to confirmed, unambiguous evidence of extraterrestrial life. Step 3 on the CoLD scale, where Hurwitz placed the Sapphire Canyon sample, indicates that the signal is biologically interesting, contamination has been ruled out, and the features cannot be straightforwardly explained by known abiotic processes. That is not where the story ends. It is where the investigation escalates. Sapphire Canyon is one of 30 rock cores that Perseverance has collected in Jezero Crater. All of them are waiting for a sample return mission to bring them back to Earth, where instruments far more sensitive than anything that can be miniaturized and sent to Mars will be able to analyze the chemistry, the mineral structures, and the organic molecules in ways that will either confirm or definitively rule out a biological origin. But the Perseverance discovery is only one piece of a much larger and more recent portrait of Mars as a planet where water did not simply vanish, it went underground. The second major discovery came in November 2025 from researchers at New York University Abu Dhabi. Scientists studied ancient sand dunes in Gale Crater, the same crater where NASA's those dunes, billions of years old, had hardened into rock at some point in the Martian past. Normally, sand dunes harden into rock through pressure from overlying material, or through cementation by wind-blown minerals. But when researchers examined the minerals in these ancient dunes, they found something different: gypsum, moving upward through the rock. The gypsum's orientation and distribution told a clear story. Water had seeped up from below, rising through the sand from somewhere beneath, and as it moved through the grains, it had deposited gypsum as it went. Dr. Dimitra Atri of NYU Abu Dhabi, who led the research, described the finding with a phrase that immediately became one of the most quoted statements in planetary science that year. She said their findings show that Mars did not simply go from wet to dry. She said that even after its lakes and rivers disappeared, small amounts of water continued to move underground, creating protected environments that could have supported microscopic life. The implications of that statement are enormous. Teehee Standard Model of Mars's habitability window, the period during which life could theoretically have existed, has been based largely on surface evidence: the ancient lake deposits, the dry river valleys, the mineral signatures of water that was once there and is now gone. If water kept moving underground after the surface dried out, the habitability window is not just longer than we thought. It extends into a period of Mars history that was previously considered dead. The gypsum deposited by that underground water movement is particularly significant for the search for life. Gypsum is one of the most effective natural preservers of organic material ever identified on Earth. In terrestrial desert environments, gypsum deposits have been found to contain preserved traces of ancient organic molecules in pristine condition even after millions of years. If microbial life existed in those underground Martian water flows and left organic traces in the gypsum as it formed, those traces may still be there, waiting to be found. Researchers have now identified the ancient dunes of Gale Crater as one of the most promising targets for future life detection. Missions on Mars precisely because of this combination of gypsum, organic preservation potential, and confirmed underground water activity. The third discovery in this 12-month sequence came on April 23, 2026, when NASA's Curiosity rover, still operational after more than 13 years on Mars, published findings in the Journal of Geophysical Research, documenting the highest concentrations of iron, manganese, and zinc ever found together in a single location in Gale Crater. The deposits were found in a feature called the Amapari Marker Band on Mount Sharp, the central peak that rises from the floor of Gale Crater. The combination of those three metals and those concentrations points to an ancient lake environment where chemical conditions were highly suitable for microbial metabolism. On Earth, environments with similar mineral chemistry are known to support thriving microbial communities. The Curiosity finding does not stand alone. It builds on and reinforces the NYU-AD discovery of underground water activity in the same crater, suggesting that Gale Crater as a whole may have had a more complex and more sustained water history than any single finding could reveal individually. A fourth discovery was published in January 2026 from an international study led by Imperial College London, using data from NASA's Perseverance rover in Jezero Crater. This study examined the margin unit of Jezero, the area at the edge of the crater where an ancient lake would have met the crater wall. What the researchers found was the first definitive evidence of an ancient shoreline on Mars. The rocks in the margin unit showed clear signs of subsurface hydrothermal activity, meaning hot water moving through underground rock formations, altering their chemistry in ways that preserve a detailed record of that interaction. On Earth, subsurface hydrothermal environments are among the most consistently productive habitats for microbial life anywhere on the planet. They support communities of organisms that derive all of their energy from chemical reactions between hot water and rock, with no need for sunlight at all. The researchers noted that this kind of subsurface hydrothermal environment on Mars could have supported microbial life in ways that the surface of the planet, cold and bathed in radiation, could not. These four discoveries, taken together, form a picture of Mars that is fundamentally different from the one that dominated scientific thinking even a decade ago. The old model said Mars was wet early, dried out catastrophically, and became a dead world roughly 3 billion years ago. The new model, emerging from the accumulation of rover data, orbital observations, laboratory analysis, and peer-reviewed publications in the world's leading science journals, says Mars had a subsurface water system that persisted long after the surface dried out, that this water created protected environments shielded from radiation, fed by chemical energy and rich in minerals capable of preserving organic material for billions of years, and that at least one rock sample from an ancient Martian riverbed contains features that, on Earth, would be considered strong evidence of past biological activity. To understand why subsurface water changes the entire calculation for life on Mars, You need to understand what the surface is actually like for any organism trying to survive there. The surface of Mars today is one of the most hostile environments in the solar system. The average temperature is minus 60 degrees Celsius. The thin atmosphere provides almost no protection from ultraviolet radiation, which destroys organic molecules within hours. Cosmic rays penetrate the soil to depths of several meters. The soil itself contains perchlorates, highly reactive compounds toxic to most Earth life. And there's essentially no liquid water on the surface because the atmospheric pressure is so low that liquid water immediately boils or freezes. The subsurface is a completely different world. Beneath even a few meters of Martian soil, rock provides effective shielding from radiation, temperatures become more stable, pressure is higher, and where water is present, whether as thin films of brine too salty to freeze, or as pockets heated by residual geological activity, it creates microenvironments where chemistry can occur and where life, if it began, could sustain itself for a very long time. Scientists already know that this model works. Deep subsurface microbes have been found kilometers underground in South African gold mines, living off chemical reactions between water and rock with no connection to the surface. World. Organisms called endoliths live inside rocks in Antarctic permafrost, surviving on trace moisture condensing in tiny pockets within the stone. Life on Earth is far more adaptable and willing to colonize extreme environments than anyone expected before the era of deep subsurface exploration. The question researchers are asking about Mars is whether that same principle applied there when the water was flowing and the conditions were more favorable than they are today. The question is no longer whether Mars had the right conditions for life to emerge. The question is whether life actually took advantage of those conditions. That question cannot be answered by any rover instrument currently on Mars. It requires the samples that Perseverance has spent years collecting to be brought back to Earth, analyzed in laboratories with the most sensitive instruments human beings have ever built, and examined by scientists from every relevant discipline working together in a way that only sample return makes possible. The Mars. Sample return mission has faced budget challenges and schedule questions, but the scientific urgency behind it has never been greater. What lies hidden beneath the sand of Mars may be the most important discovery in the history of science. Or it may turn out to be a set of chemical processes that mimic biology, but ultimately have no biological origin. Either answer reshapes our understanding of this planet, of the conditions under which life can arise in the universe, and of our own place in the cosmos. If life arose independently on Mars and on Earth, two separate planets in the same solar system, then the implication is staggering. It means life is not a miraculous accident unique to Earth. It means wherever the conditions are right, life finds a way. And across a universe containing hundreds of billions of galaxies, each containing hundreds of billions of stars with planets circling most of them, the implications of that conclusion are almost impossible to overstate. The data is real. The peer review is complete. The samples are waiting in sealed tubes on the surface of Mars, preserved in minerals that underground water left behind billions of years ago. The science is pointing in a direction that no generation of human beings has ever faced before. And the only remaining question is whether we will find the will, the resources, and the determination to bring those samples home and finally read the answer that the red planet has been keeping hidden beneath its sand.